Were you affected by the CrowdStrike outage that happened on July 19th? The outage that took down over 8 million Windows PCs. If you were affected, you're not alone, of course. 8 million PCs across the world were affected, taking down healthcare systems, airlines, and so much more. Looks like CrowdStrike is offering you a $10 Uber Eats gift card if you were affected. I've been thinking about this outage and what happened and what lessons we as WordPress users, as computer users, can take from it. So let's take a look at what happened and let's think through how we can protect ourselves from these types of outages going forward. If you're new here, my name is Kathy Zant. I am a security professional, WordPress enthusiast. I work full-time at Motivation Code, helping leaders better understand and lead their teams. I'll leave a link down below if you want to learn more about that. I also have some WordPress security and WordPress essentials courses that are available as well. Links down below about that. But let's dive into this CrowdStrike outage and see what we can learn. All right, so this article on Ars Technica does a retrospective on that. This was from a couple of days ago on July 24th. They basically are blaming a testing bug for the security update that took down these PCs. They rolled out an update just after midnight Eastern time. It was a content configuration update to allow its software to gather telemetry information, basically, about possible novel threat techniques. So they said that they did a rapid response content update and that they test these before they deploy them. But one of the steps involves checking updates using something called the content validator. But there was a bug in it that did not detect problematic content data. Basically, a QA process failed on them, but they rolled this update out to everyone. Now they say going forward, they are going to do a staggered deployment strategy for rapid response content. Basically, they'll do a test to see if 100,000 computers are okay with the test, and if that's okay, then maybe they'll roll it out to the rest of their customers. They also say that they are going to give their customers more control over when rapid response content updates are deployed, so that updates aren't deployed at midnight when fewer people are around to notice or fix things. Let's talk a little bit about this. So way back at the beginning of my IT career, I worked in a network management department that did a bunch of updates. That was part of what we did. And I was the tiny little internet person in the corner. But I learned a lot from my network professional friends, and I learned about something that was attended updates, updates where you are present for those updates to occur, and unattended updates. And these unattended updates, you could just basically say, if there's an update, go ahead, apply it, we'll check it in the morning type of thing. Attended updates are those you initiate the update process and you watch and make sure everything is okay as that update rolls out. Now, each system is going to have its own risk assessment for these types of updates. You might have test servers where an unattended or an automatic update is okay. Just let the test system update itself. If anything goes wrong, it doesn't take down the entire business. But for things that are mission critical, for sites of yours that generate income in the morning, you wake up and you see that people in the middle of the night, you were earning income because your site was up and available. For anything where your customers have to have access. I worked on one major website that was making $50,000 an hour for a major travel organization. And if that site went down, $50,000 an hour is a lot of money. If it's mission critical to the bottom line of your business, if the availability of your website means your business integrity is being protected, then I don't recommend that you do unattended updates. You want to be there. You want to test and make sure all of those updates went through. Let's now talk about another scenario, another thing that happened in the WordPress space that underscores how important attended updates are. Now, I initially saw reports about this happening in a security forum on Post Status Slack. Post Status is an organization that allows for communication for the people whose business is WordPress. And I noticed somebody posting that some of their plugins had been updated and malicious code was added to sites, and that they were seeing it happen to more than one site. They investigated and they saw that some plugins that were on the repo, on the WordPress.org repository, actually had malicious code inserted into them. So Ars Technica reports here, as security researchers did some investigation on this when they saw it happening. And it was only about 36,000 websites that were backdoored through this supply chain attack. But still, there are 60,000 plugins on the WordPress repository, and there are probably just as many developers who are posting code to the repository for the plugins that are a part of the repo. There are also themes that have developers. Software is all about trust. If you install a plugin on your site and then set it up for auto update, you better sure as heck trust that that developer is ensuring the integrity of the code that's placed on the repo. There were 5 plugins that were affected. Social Warfare, the largest plugin. So their developer account, so their account where they log into WordPress.org and post their code, that was compromised. Could have been a reused password, could have been something that was on a developer's workstation, kind of like what happened with LastPass a couple of years ago. Either way, these supply chain attacks meant that numerous websites that had auto updates turned on their WordPress sites received these malicious downloads straight from the WordPress repository. So let's talk a little bit about auto updates. How are you turning them on? This is just a test site. If you go to your particular plugins page, you can see enable auto updates is not turned on over here. If I wanted to do that for, let's say, Cadence Blocks, and I wanted to enable auto updates, I could do that here and I could turn it off just as easily. On this particular test site, I don't log in here very often, so setting it up for automated updates would not be something that I would be concerned about. Some of my other sites where money is coming in the middle of the night, I do not have automated updates turned on. For these reasons, because there are a lot of things that can go wrong with a WordPress update. Let's talk about some of them. All right, so your WordPress website has X number of plugins and themes installed on it. You have one theme that is active, maybe a child theme to that parent theme, and you may have any number of plugins installed. If you turn on automated updates, you are putting 100% trust in the integrity of your site in every single developer for which you are enabling auto updates. Every once in a while, you have a plugin that you install, and let's say it doesn't do everything that you want, so you add some customizations. Or maybe you download a different plugin that does something that's somewhat related to that particular plugin. These have code dependencies, right? They might work when you first install them, but then you have a developer that adds additional code, and all of a sudden it doesn't work with your customization. All of a sudden it doesn't work with the other developer's plugin. These types of things happen more often than you think. I was cleaning a hacked site once, and the site was completely white screen. It was 500 error on the server, and so I had to investigate what was going on. What I found out was a very major, large plugin had released an update, and that plugin's code was not compatible with the older version of PHP that this particular site was using. That dependency failed. Now, that large plugin pushed out an update right after that to make sure that everybody who had the older version of PHP was going to be okay. But for a time, that person who owned that site thought that their site was hacked. That person reached out and wanted their site cleaned, and it ended up just being that particular plugin's update, not being compatible for the environment. Now, many different plugin developers have very extensive QA teams because there's so much to test. You get a plugin like Yoast that's installed on 9-10 million sites. They are probably running into various code configurations, various versions of PHP, MySQL, Maria databases, all sorts of different things that they can run into that could cause problems. So they have to have very extensive testing and QA processes in place. And if you 100% trust those processes, and it doesn't matter to you if your site goes down for a few hours if their process doesn't work, by all means, turn on auto updates. But there's a lot of people in the WordPress space who are saying we should be using auto updates, and but you can just roll back to an old version of the plugin if there ever is a problem. I don't think that that is the way to go for a very important large production site that is making you money. Now, you're going to have to do this risk assessment all on your own. If you lose money, if your site goes down, or you lose leads, you lose opportunities, you might even lose search engine ranking, you're going to have to decide how important that is. Here is the process that I would recommend rather than using auto updates in this rollback feature. I would recommend instead having a staging environment, an exact replica of your production environment. Roll out your updates, whether for WordPress core, your themes, your plugins. Roll out those updates on your staging environment that's an exact replica of your production environment. Roll those out there first, and then go through everything on your site and make sure everything is okay before you start applying updates to your production site. Because if there ever is a problem, something unforeseen that might happen, you want to be able to see that in a controlled environment that doesn't take down your business before you start rolling up those updates to your production site. For many plugins, making sure that you roll out your updates right away to get security patches is incredibly important. That's why it's very important that you either have something like PatchStack, where you are virtually patching for vulnerabilities, or some kind of firewall that is blocking those types of attacks, looking for those vulnerabilities. You want to make sure that you have something like that involved so that those are blocked, so that you can do your process of looking at your staging environment and then rolling out updates to production. Very important that you take those types of precautions. Invest in security when you can in order to make sure your site's integrity is safe. If you don't have the funds to invest in the integrity of your site's security, then just stay on top of it. Make sure that you have good relationships and get mailings from all of the developers on which you are depending for your production site's integrity. And if there is a vulnerability, most developers will let you know as soon as possible that you need to update, and pay heed to those. Run those updates as soon as possible to make sure that they are patched. You see, there's a big difference between a security patch, a 3.9.1 security patch type of update, versus a 3.9 to 4.0 major update to a plugin or any kind of software. If there was a way to segregate the different types of updates so that security updates could be done in an unattended way, whereas larger updates that change the functionality of a site could be done attended, then I would say go ahead, make sure that security updates are applied automatically. But if your site is a production site and anything that could go wrong could take down your site and cost your business money or reputation, you're going to want to do these updates in an attended way. I recommend just setting aside an hour a week just to review all of your updates on your staging server and then apply those updates to production, making sure you're running backups to your production server regularly. Run that backup right before you set up those updates to your production server. This is the way that you're going to ensure your site's integrity. Now, what does it mean for the rest of us that are just, updating our computers, updating our phones, those types of things? If you want to, run a backup before you are applying major updates. For major updates, you might want to wait a week or so and see if bugs shake out. When Mac OS starts a new trip down a California landmark and has a new update, typically, I wait a little while and make sure all of the bugs are shaken out. I don't need all of those features, and I need to do my job. You are going to have to do these kinds of risk assessments for your technological interfaces on your own. I can't advise you on every single thing. You're going to have to make these decisions whether new features are critically important. But don't do automated updates on major upgrades in functionality. This is where you're going to find the greatest collisions. As far as the supply chain attacks, it's all about trust. How well do you trust your developers? For me, I just like to double check everything. Of course, I have a security background. I've seen a lot. So I don't do automated updates on production sites that are critically important to me. Make sure I have a staging environment. And as for CrowdStrike, really hope that everybody enjoys their $10 gift cards for their Uber Eats. I'm really hoping that less people do unattended updates and people get more educated about the updates that are coming at their technology. If you learned something in this video, give me a like, give me a subscribe, drop a comment down below. Let me know how you've been affected by any of this. And also let me know what your experience has been with automated updates. Have you had issues with auto updates for WordPress or any other technology? I'd love to learn from you as well. Thanks for watching.